Hey guys, it's Ryan here with Hobbies and Man once again, and today we're doing another manga first impressions review. Today we're looking at Game of Familia, Book 1. This is by Mikoto Yamaguchi with art by D.P. Or DP, I guess. This is published by Yen Press. It's a shonen, at least in Japan, although in this case I think it's labeled a mature audience book. So this would be an adult demographic. And the genres here are adventure, dark fantasy, and isekai. And it does not currently have an adaptation, but I can see one coming for this real soon because it's kind of in line with some of the darker action shonen type things that are coming out right now, right? So, before I get into the premise, there are some interesting things about some of the work done here. So, first of all, Mikoto Yamaguchi is someone you might know because he did a different series with kind of similar flavor to this, but in a very completely different context, because he's the writer for the I Want to Marry a Billionaire series. So that series is a, what's it called? I guess it'd be like some sort of like Bachelor kind of based series where the characters end up being sent to a like XXX version of the Bachelor show that they're watching, right? And so that is kind of like a sex intrigue type of series with a lot of thriller aspects, right? This is very much a dark fantasy isekai with a lot of unnecessarily prominent fan service. So it's not really for everyone. I wouldn't necessarily say I loved it either, but there is a few different things about this that are interesting. Mikoto Yamaguchi is pretty good at making interesting female characters, and so he succeeds in doing this, right? So it is pretty good, but I want to talk about it a bit in more detail. So let me do the premise first, and then we'll finish off with my thoughts on some of the stuff here that I didn't necessarily like. So basically, a family gets isekai. This family, it consists of a young man who is the son of the man that married the major female character, which is this one. This female character also has two younger sisters, and so the young man and his stepmom and her two sisters get transported to another world. In this case, there's like an Oedipal kind of relationship between the male character and the stepmom character, and so the other two characters end up being like more like his siblings than they would be like his aunts, right? So it's really weird, but the idea is this character is going to have a harem of people that are not really related to him, but legally are related to him, and they're going to be in a fantasy world. They get isekai'd, and you might appreciate this. I didn't really like it, but they skip through all of the initial isekai stuff. The characters don't meet a god. The characters don't really know what the hell's going on. They get isekai'd. They get explained to them that they're summoned, and then they immediately get put into the world. And there's a lot of elements skipped through this that I didn't really like. I think that there could have been a bit more time spent on the initial setup because I felt like there was a huge portion of stuff that was skipped through in order to get to the first battle for the first volume. And in doing that, it actually felt like it weakened the story for me, right? And so they're asked to save the world, but they have to sacrifice a lot in order to get the power necessary to do so. And so the sacrifice is that these female characters have to give up their most important, aspect. And for whatever reason, this world that they get isekai'd into decides that every woman finds their womb or the ability to have children to be the most important thing ever, even though modern sensibilities would tell you that that's not necessarily true, and I would agree with that, right? It's not really true that all women value having kids at the highest level across the world, right? And so in order to not have them do this, our male character decides to sacrifice his body, all of it, to these three major spirits to provide all of the support magic that these female characters will need. And so in a similar sense, or in a way, it is similar to something like Chain Soldier, where you have one male character that's a support character, even though he's the main character of the story, and he's surrounded by female warriors, right? And the problem is that this kind of setup falls apart pretty quickly when you realize that the female characters, or like the reason why the female characters are here, isn't really logical, because this character asked them, why is it that everyone that's defending this place is all women? They tell him, hey, we're going to explain this to you later. And I don't think that the explanation is ever satisfying, because at the end of the volume, a whole army of men shows up to fight. And it seems like all of the people that were sent here would be people that have trouble with the law, and historically that would mostly be men, right? And so it doesn't really make sense that everyone here is female, except for the fact that they want it to be similar to Chain Soldier and stuff like that, right? And in that sense, I feel like even though Mikoto Yamaguchi's ability to write characters is pretty high, his ability to write logical fantasy stories is pretty low. And I'm not really sure why that is. Maybe he had a bad editor. Maybe there was some mandate from the magazine. I'm not really sure, but it is pretty disappointing, because I know that this guy's good at writing. I think that his ability to make Marry a Billionaire as interesting as it is due to a lot of his abilities as a writer. But it seems like he just doesn't know how to make the things that he wants happen logically, like easily, right? And so you kind of end up with this initial world building that immediately gets destroyed for no reason, and that's really disappointing. The other thing is that this creator is pretty well known for creating pretty fan servicey or sex heavy kind of concepts, right? And I don't feel that any of the like fan service moments in the story actually were meaningful. Even though there was kind of a concept there to try to explain it away, like in Chain Soldier, I don't think it worked. It mostly comes off as very shitty and almost kind of grotesque. And, it's really well drawn, so it is attractive to look at, but it ends up being kind of ugly, right? In terms of like the execution. And I find that disappointing. Not so disappointing that I would stop reading, because I actually enjoy the male character's like journey, and he's actually not the reason why all of these like fan service aspects happen. It's actually mostly just like the female characters have to fight these like dead male zombies, which immediately try to like fuck the female characters, and then there's like male characters that are from like the magic capital, and so they come to the edge of the territory, and then they end up trying to abuse these female characters because they are basically kind of like outlaws, right? And so it just comes off really shitty, where like it doesn't make sense. It just comes off as like grotesque, and that's really disappointing. So I don't know how I feel about this ultimately, because like I like the concept. I like the idea of this like family getting sent over to be isekai'd and having to deal with it. I enjoy the kind of vaguely taboo nature of like a character ending up with his stepmom and maybe one of his stepsisters or something like that. Like I don't necessarily find that appalling or anything. I find it to be fine. It's not really all that different from most manga in this kind of vein. But the way that the fan service works is pretty grotesque. And although I'm usually someone that is like, if you don't like it, don't read it. The thing is that I'm interested in this enough to continue reading. And so if I'm going to continue to see a lot of this grotesque kind of fan service, this kind of ugly fan service, I'm not sure that I want to, right? And so my kind of idea here is probably I need to read 1 or 2 more volumes of this before I decide what to do with it. Like, so I might just have to buy another volume to see if I like it or not. But initially, my thoughts are I probably won't like it that much further. I just need to decide if that's the case, right? Maybe I can get used to some of the ugly like fan service, or maybe I can look past it, or maybe it goes away after the initial kind of concept of the story. I'm not really sure. I'm just mostly disappointed because when I read about this series, when I heard other people talking about it, my understanding was it was really interesting and awesome, and it didn't really live up to that expectation. So I don't know. If you want to read about a world where we have a single male character that supports a bunch of awesome, hot female warriors, I would recommend something like Chain Soldier, over this, because that's like, at least in that one, Nothing is overtly ugly in terms of like why things are made, and there is like a built-in reason why the fan service exists, right? So yeah, those are my thoughts on this book. I didn't really mean it for it to go that long, but it is what it is. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought down below, and see you guys in the next video. So goodbye. Hey guys, just to finish off the video here, I remind you that I am part of the Omnibuds Cafe Facebook group. If you guys are interested in communicating with other big fans of comic books and manga, please check out the group. I have links to it down below. So thank you guys.